Thank you very much. I'm not going to follow the slides in their original sequence, but talking about Quennefeld, some of you may remember this project. The name of our company changed in 2022. Prior to that, we were called Greenland Minerals. And we own the exploration license for the Quennefeld rare earth project, which is located near the city of Narsak in the southern part of Greenland. It's a location that is easily accessible. It's a location where we can operate all year round. And in fact, I just came back from there a couple of days ago. Now, the Quennefeld project is a 1.1 billion ton resource with about 143 million ton of rare earth in the reserve category, about 338 million ton in the indicated category, and the balance is in the inferred category. We have been operating this project for the better part of the last 10 years, and with a lot of support from successive government and administrations in Greenland. However, in 2021, new elections brought in a government that was focused on banning the project and implementing an anti-uranium law, which is called the Uranium Act, or also Act 20, which had an expropriatory effect on our company. As a result, we started negotiations with the new government. And once we found a closed door, we basically activated the dispute resolution mechanism, which was in the contract that the company had signed with the authorities and as part of the Mineral Resources Act, which is essentially arbitration in the International Court of Copenhagen. So in 2023, we essentially filed a statement of claim. It's a fairly extensive document. It is publicly accessible if you want to take a look at it. And essentially what we are requesting from the tribunal is a determination of whether Act 20 applies or not to our project. The Act 20 is designed to uniquely stop our project. It has a retroactive effect. And as such, if indeed in the end it applies, what we are seeking is compensation. We have an externally assessed value for this project of $7.5 billion, that's US dollars, with accumulated interest of another $4 billion. However, our focus is not to seek an award. Our focus is to put this project back onto its path for development. What is really frustrating about the application of Act 20 or the wording of Act 20 is that it creates a Gordian knot for us as a company, because what it specifically states is that if in the end a tribunal determines that it is an expropriation, then the Act 20 doesn't apply, which is a very strange way of defining the Act. It's essentially a mechanism that is designed to stop the progress of our project. And the Act 20 was a response to an electoral promise made by the IA party when they campaigned in 2021. I'd like to remark as well that the IA party was elected with about 37% of the votes, so not necessarily representing a significant majority of the Greenland electorate. This slide shows you the evolution of the Greenlandic political makeup over the years. And what you can see here is that in purple, the Inuit Ataqatigiit, which is the IA party, was basically in control since 2021, but with a very thin majority of essentially one seat. The previous incumbent, which is the Social Democrat, or also called Siumut Party, has been hugely supportive of this project. And in fact, in prior legislations, they enacted a law that permitted the use of uranium and the exploitation of uranium. So it's fair to say that attitudes and government position around this topic has kind of been moving back and forth. Elections in Greenland are to take place with a vote on the 13th of March, 11th or 13th of March, if my memory is correct. And so we're about slightly under a month away from a new government. From our perspective, we have to work with the government in place, but I think it is fair to say that the current situation in which we are and the current government makeup couldn't really be worse than what it is. And so as a result, we are really looking forward to what the new administration is going to usher in. We have worked to retool our company and our board. Ever since I joined as a managing director, we decided to rearrange some of our executive management and board in order to address the situation that we're facing. It's not been easy, but we've been able to attract good talent, excellent talent, I would say. Our incoming chairman, non-executive chairman, Simon Kidston, has a track record of significant billion-dollar exits and sits on the board of a number of ASX-listed companies. We were also able to attract to our cause and to our board Sven Hardenberg. Sven Hardenberg was number 2 of the government and the Sumut Party during the Aleka Hammond administration, which is about 10 years ago. He's also a successful Greenlandic businessman with a lot of interest and support in Greenlandic causes. He's Inuit himself and spends part of his time in Nuuk and now part of his time in Narsak, which is where our project is located. We've also got the services of Mrs. Julie Bishop, who is an accomplished international diplomat, as many of you would know, and who is also skilled in conflict resolution. And she's providing us with a lot of support, especially when back-channeling with the authorities. She was also in the Australian government during the previous Trump administration, so she's met President Trump a number of times. Other members of our board also include Mr. Mark Saxon, who's an accomplished Australian geologist with a track record of discoveries in the rare earth space in Scandinavia. In fact, he's the one who discovered one of the largest Swedish rare earth projects called Norra Kärr. We also have Aris Stamoulis, who is a credit structuring expert and with a very strong background in finance and fundraising. Sarah Kelly, who is our executive director. She also forms part of the board. She's a lawyer and she's completely focused on managing the various streams that we have on the legal front. And finally, Mr. Shiale Go, who is sitting on our board in representation of Shenge Resources Holding, which is a Chinese rare earth refining company, and who is one of our large institutional shareholders with under 9% of the stock. In terms of our stock, you can see here that information is slightly outdated, but we've got about $1.5 billion shares on issue. We've got a market cap as of today around $120 million. The amount of cash is close to $20 million. We recently entered into a private placement at the end of the month of Jan, where we raised $9.5 million at a relatively tight discount. And we've got no debt. Besides Shenge Resources, which arguably is the largest institutional shareholder, but with albeit a relatively small portion. We've got investors from obviously Australia, but we've also got significant institutional investors coming from the United States as well as Europe, namely Switzerland, as well as UK. Let's talk about the geopolitics. The Trump administration and President Trump is essentially tearing down, historical agreements like the NAFTA, as we can see. He's also got, at least verbally speaking, an expansionist policy. He's looking to make acquisitions and or attach territories going from Canada to Mexico, Panama, and of course also Greenland, and he's been very explicit about Greenland. This is why this affects us as a company. It of course and obviously affects Greenland as a country. The United States, as many of you may know, have expressed a desire to acquire Greenland as a territory a number of times. And so this is a little bit of a blast from the past, although all the signals that we get today are that this administration is really bent on to establishing itself in a much more important and more present manner in the territory of Greenland. The main reason is an issue of security. Due to climate change, as we all know, the northwest and the northeast sea routes are now opening, and the United States has a very strong desire to have a better understanding of what is the logistics and traffic that goes around what is the largest island in the world, which is Greenland. What this slide is supposed to represent, or is representing, is basically the evolution of the share price of energy transition minerals during the Trump administration and during the Democrat administration. In my opinion, that's the most important slide. Okay. So, it's fair to say that in the current environment, I'd say that our stock represent one of the most attractive risk-return ratio in this world of wild geopolitics. Let's talk about our legal strategy. We initiated the dispute resolution mechanism, which is arbitration, in Copenhagen. But our focus really is essentially trying to regain the mining license and put that process back on track. And as a result, we are now facing a bifurcation process where we are going to need to litigate onshore, initially in Greenland, and upon appeal, we will end up in the Supreme Court of Denmark. We expect to get a fair treatment in that forum. In terms of updated dates that are upcoming, we are looking at, of course, the elections that will take place in March. A decision on the arbitral decision is expected sometime during this summer, and the first hearing with respect to the lawsuit would be taking place sometime in September. The renewal of our exploration license has to be done before the end of the year. We don't expect any issues from that perspective. Right besides that, we also own exploration projects in Spain as well as in Canada, and we do that through the ownership of wholly owned subsidiaries. So this concludes my presentation. I will be at a booth if any of you has any interest to discuss this topic a bit further. I'll make myself available, and I thank you for your attention today.